In my last video, I promised you guys a little bit about a rant for weather, and what that has to do with is some weather forecasting. I know it's part art and part science, but lately they just haven't been very good. So let me set the scenario for you. A couple weeks ago, I was going to do a Lifeline pilot's flight to go from Peoria down to Memphis, and the forecast for that Monday had been looking like a lot of low clouds. But as we got nearer to that time, some of the models started clearing up for the Peoria area. So my concern was, are the clouds going to be low in Peoria to where I could climb through them and get icing or not? And the temperatures were going to be such that any clouds at those low levels would have been problematic for me. So I was really hoping for some either really thin layers or no clouds at all. And so with that concern, I was trying to figure out, do I need to cancel this flight or not? And I argued with myself, looking at the different models and switching between different things to see, can this flight happen or not? And as we got closer, like I said, the models started clearing up, and I ended up with 4 out of the 6 models basically saying that it was going to be sunny in Peoria. So I was thinking, wow, this is great. The front is going to move through and clear out for Peoria. Maybe it'll be lower clouds in other spots, but then we'll be able to climb, get over the clouds, and not have any problems. And I understand that the forecasters are human, and they are looking at all these different things with data and trying to figure out what they should be putting into their forecasts, but they've just really been wrong a lot lately. So let me take you through some of the things that I was looking at, and I apologize, these are all going to be screenshots from my phone, at least most of them, and just try to take you through what I'm looking at. So what you see here is my weather sport view of a Peoria to Memphis flight, and this was from the Friday before. So I was sitting here trying to figure out, do I need to cancel on the family now so they can come up with arrangements, or just keep waiting it out. So at this point on Friday, it was basically saying really low clouds in Peoria and fine in Memphis, and you can see this blue dotted line, that's where the icing levels are, and you'll see that they're low there where the clouds are going to be, and so that's basically a no-go. I was like, well, that's not going to work. But again, the other models had been looking better and better. So I decided to stick with it. I was texting them saying, hey, you may have to delay just a little bit to see if the clouds will lift, but I kept the flight on. And so this now is the TAF for the day before. So this was the 7 p.m. TAF. So basically basically 12 hours before we were going to go fly. And here in this 0300 where it says broken 2500, that's what they were calling, broken 2500, and that was going to be a concern for being able to get through the clouds or not. So even just the night before, that's what they were calling. Again, the other models were saying, nope, it's going to be sunny. There was a front coming through. I was looking at Moline, so here's the TAF for Moline. Moline was saying broken 3500 at 8 a.m. even though their models was saying clear skies. I looked at Springfield. Springfield was also broken 2500 as well, so it just wasn't looking good from the TAFs. But I moved now to the imagery that was on there. It was starting to say, hey, but at 3,000 feet there really wasn't going to be any icing. Peoria's kind of right where that border was going to be, that blue and green edge right there. So that was 10 a.m. for the 27th. Like, okay, well maybe it's going to move along, or maybe it's going to be thin enough that when I wake up in the morning, there will be no forecast icing. If we look at the severity of the icing, again, that very light blue would have been just a trace of icing. And again, Peoria is right there on the edge. I don't have it marked on the map there, but it's right there on the edge of that blue. Peoria is kind of due east of that Iowa, that southern Iowa border. And then I came to the cloud depiction, and basically now the cloud imagery is like, yeah, it's going to be basically clear in Peoria. But the TAFs were saying, no, it wasn't. So this is where I get really irritated as to all these different ones coming together, and the NOAA site has, nope, it's going to move through and not affect Peoria, but the TAF still has it in there. So then I went to the skew-T diagram, and it was saying clear skies. So I've got this set at 10 a.m. for that Monday. And if you watched my last weather video, we talked about how when the blue and red lines come together, that's usually where the cloud bases are going to be. And here they don't come together at all. And so it's predicting clear skies for the Peoria area for 10 a.m. when I need to go flying. And so I reran my route. Here's the route depiction again. So it had changed now to being marginal VFR, and still a concern though with it as to could we get up to an altitude that would get us above clouds before hitting icing. And then if you move to the grid view, also showing that same thing, was it's going to be marginal VFR basically all along the route until you get to Memphis, and then it's going to be VFR there. Here is the discussion, the forecast discussion. So sometimes it's helpful to read their reasoning behind what they're talking about. I'm not going to read this to you, but it basically says, you know, these lower clouds are coming through, and it's going to be marginal VFR. It's supposed to move across the sites. This is has the whole area of Peoria, Springfield, Decatur, Champaign is this whole forecast area. And so they're basically saying, yes, clouds 2,000 feet or above, and that's the way it was going to be. And it talks about some winds. But still, this whole time, they were calling for clouds. So let's fast forward now to, I wake up 6 a.m., the morning of the flight. I still hadn't called it off. And this is what I brought up with the TAF. Okay, before I even looked out the window, I brought up the TAF. I said, okay, what was it saying? It's scattered 2000s. Now, scattered's better than broken, so I'll give them that. And then broken at 1600. And so that's what they were calling when I woke up. And then I switched to the METARs, and lo and behold, it is clear skies outside. Absolutely clear. Not a cloud in sight in the Peoria area. And I just scratched my head and said, how silly is this, that even that TAF that they had just written a few hours before was saying that there was going to be clouds, and yet it was clear. This next screenshot is a satellite view, although it doesn't depict it very well. It was cloudy down in Springfield and Decatur. It's just that the layer was so thin, it doesn't show very well on this satellite image. And in the end, we would have been able to climb through a layer like that and not picked up anything. It was super, super thin. And it was just mind-boggling to me, though, that we had all these models saying, nope, you're going to be fine. And even that same morning when it was clear skies, they were still putting in the TAF that there was going to be clouds, even though there were none. So I don't know. It's just really frustrating. I'm glad I didn't cancel the flight. We ended up having a great flight. A wonderful family, a young lady that's going through cancer treatments down at St. Jude. Wonderful person. And it was great to have her as a passenger. And I'm super glad I didn't cancel. So as you go through these forecasts, you always got to take them with a grain of salt. That's why I always look at multiple models and make up my own thinking as to whether I need to cancel a flight going into it. And then, of course, you get to the day of, and you just got to make the decision and go with it. So there's my little weather rant. Not always accurate and sometimes frustrating. Great to have the technology that we have today, but always look out for what might be a little bit different than what the humans are saying. So hope you fly safe, and we'll see you on the next one.